Ruchem Aboim B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah, Moshe Boston. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's shir. Everyone who came in person, everyone who's listening, all the Noshim and the Ezras Noshim, everyone who's watching, Ruchem Aboim. Rav Drev Schus is sponsoring a shir called Irgin Shir Torah, 718-851-8651, or email ist@yeshivanet.com for this great schus. Tonight we have the covered Agudas once again, Rabbi Moshe Tuvia Lieff Shlita, Rav Agudas Bais Binyamin, to speak on a Yid Is A Yid. It's my cover to call on Rabbi Lieff for tonight's Rasha.
Shus, Arav, Atzadik, Achotz, Rav Bold, the Ma'argin of Irgin Shir Torah, Shus, Rav Deutsch. We're doing this for many years. His introduction gets more flowing and exuberant as the years go by. Choshvu Talmidei Chachomim, B'nai Saliyah, Achavirei. Every year, Rabbi Bald asks me, what do I want to speak about? I say, you pick the topic, and B'siyata D'Shmaya will try to work with it. Today, he came up with the scintillating, exhilarating topic, a Yid is a Yid. Was mehr darf man sagen? A Yid is a Yid, ist doch ein Shayach. I want to tell you about a Yid at Gehasen Mo'ana Goyin, Moshe Feinstein, I'll tell you, what does it mean to be a Yid? Moshe came to a chasana, and as he's walking into the hall where the meal is going to be served, a fellow approaches him and gives him a dollar. He thought Moshe was a shnara, shluchet d'makeh. Moshe was the Gadol Ador. My Rabbi Shlem Zaman Obach Zatzal said 200 years ago he would have been a Gadol Ador. He would have been like a Rishon almost. See Moshe's Shuvas, he could be Chelik on a Mitvah and a Rashba. But this fellow thought that Moshe was a Shnar, so he gave him a dollar. Shalom Abachi Didi Vachivi, who remained nameless, who biked all the way from Borough Park in this Meshuggah weather. Lo Yistam. We don't take it for granted. I'll call upon him. So the fellow who thought Moshe was a fellow collecting money sits down at his table. And the Olam says to him, are you crazy? You just gave Moshe a dollar like he's a schnorr, he's the Gadol Ador. What are you doing? So Vais the Chais Moshe overheard them berating the fellow. So what Moshe did? For the next half an hour, until the Chosan and Kala came out, he went around from table to table collecting for MTJ. It's a gemach that is the most normal thing to give him a dollar. V'haraye, he held a Maisa Moshe. Unser Gott Rav Moshe, somebody gave him a dollar. He thought he was a schnorr, he didn't want to embarrass him. So he went from table to table for half an hour collecting for MTJ. B'Tferes Yishlaim's Yeshiva. Das ist a Yid. Das ist unser Rav Moshe. The potential of a Yid. On the other hand, the chashivas that one has for another Yid. I was in a Bais Oval, and I was being Menachem Oval. So the Oval told me that someone from my Kehillah, the father, was Chaim Kaufman Zatzal, was in a Bais Oval many years ago, and he saw Rabbi Yankov Zatzal. And he noticed that Rabbi Yankov was Menachem Oval while he was sitting. Normally, the Oval is sitting. You don't tell an Oval, let's say a daven with the mincha, you don't tell him sit down. You don't tell him Oval to stay in his Avelis, but normally he's sitting, and Menachem Oval standing. And Rabbi Yankov was sitting. So he asked the Bnei Mishpacha, my highest, we're from Kamenetsky Zatzal. He said, Rabbi Yankov said how could you look down upon a Yid? How could you look down? Now, Rabbi Yankov wasn't very tall. But Rabbi Yankov felt what he's going to stand and be Menachem Ovel as another Yid. You look down at Yid. I've seen Rabbeim. They say Rabbi Chonan Zatzal was a very tall man. And when we would talk to a Bach and learning, he'd bend all the way down. I've seen Rabbeim with little children in first grade, and they crouch down to be eye level with the kid. Think about it. Do we ever think that way? That they look at you like from the land of the giants? You know, they're a little kid, and you're 6 foot tall, and you're looking down, normally giving mussar, or you're giving encouragement, let's call it encouragement, inspiration, and you're looking down at them, you get down to their level. Rabbi Yankov was not Menachem Ovel standing. He always sat down to be Menachem Ovel, another Yid. Das redt man. Das ist der ganze Inyan von seiner Yid. Steht that there were 10 nisyonis that Avraham Avinu had during the course of his lifetime. And every one of those nisyonis build up Klal Yisroel ad hayom hazeh, so that we have fortitude and strength to face adversity. A Yid has the resiliency, like Avraham Avinu had resiliency with the 10 nisyonis. Whether you go according to the listings of the Baal Tanura, or the listings of various Medrashim, Tanit Be'Elio, you don't see that V'hinei Oimed Pesach Oil K'choim HaYom is in the Zion. It's not listed. Rabbi Yankov Zatzal. How could that not be listed? He's 100 years old. Kamvas at Shippit. It's the 3rd day after his surgery, his bris milah. And he stands there scanning the horizon in more pain from not having orchim. Kodesh Baruch Hu changes his plan, and he sends out malachim to give him the chesed to relieve his pain. That's not an nisayon. He's 100 years old. He's an elderly person. He's not feeling well. It's a very hot day. He has every het in the world not to do chesed. And that's not considered a nisayon. A blistering hot day with orchim coming, looking for orchim. And to intensify the kasha, the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Pei Vov, lists all the various components of the legendary episode of the chesed that he did for the malachim. And everything he did was repaid by Kodesh Baruch Hu, repaid b'chvodei v'atzmai. But the Gemara says there's a taina on Avraham Avinu, because when it came to washing their feet, Yukach no mat mayim. He didn't do it himself. So because of that, says the Gemara in his galgal, that Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock instead of speaking to the rock. In his galgal, that he's punished, he doesn't enter Yisroel. Klal Yisroel doesn't realize their fulfillment. They're 40 years in the midbar. Was Vilman von Avraham Avinu? He was Oimib in his Sayed to the nth degree. So one little thing he didn't do, everything else, every I is dotted, T is crossed. He makes cottage cheese, Lushi, Gimel Hashanis Mechal, Alts Tutel. No, ain't kleine Zach. He gives them the water to wash their own feet. Says Rabbi Yankov, a murder Gazach. That really touches up what is a Yid. The Nisayon of Chesed is not a nisayon. Shtei titein emes liYaakov Chesed laAvram. It's a gift from the Rabbeinu Shalom that Avraham Avinu was endowed with Chesed to be a semel for Chesed to the world. The Rabbeinu Shalom is Aviyah Chesed. So to represent the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avram Avinu is endowed with emes liyakov chesed l'Avram. And Mamela was not an Nisayan, because his natural yen in life was a need to do chesed. So the fact that he's scouring the horizon, scanning the horizon, looking to do chesed in the hottest day after his bris milah at 100 years old is golnish k'nisayin. In fact, because he represents chesed, the chesed of Hashem, any minimalization of his chesed is a lessening in Ribui K'vod Shemayim. A Yid is Amur HaChesed. And the chesed of being a Yid is not just something we have to work on. It's a natural endowment. Goyim lechasodim, and if not, then we suspect you're not a descendant of Avraham Avinu. What a moiridik upteich. And I thought that maybe it's Mida Keneged Mida. Moshe Rabbeinu hit the stone instead of speaking to the stone. What's the Groisa Avla? It's a minimization of Yisgalus Kvoidai, of Ribui K'vod Shemayim. As much as there was a Ribui K'vod Shemayim and Yisgalus of Kuchabrichu, when he hit the stone and water came out, it would have been even more if he had spoken to the stone. So on his lofty level, he minimized Ribui K'vod Shemayim, his Galus K'vodi is Baal Shemai, the revelation of Hashem's existence. So Mamela, it's Mida Keneged Mida for what Avraham Avinu did. So don't go around patting yourself on the back that you're a big Baal Chesed. The problem is if you're not a big Baal Chesed or not a Balas Chesed, it's the nature of every Yid to be a Goyim Le Chesed, to be a person that lives for Chesed. And if we don't realize our potential, we're not realizing our potential of being a Yid. A Yid is a Yid means that a Yid is a Baal Chesed. As I touched up it, Rabbi Yankiv. Now, one would think that to be a Yid, you have to earn the title of being a Yid. It's not automatic. But you have to go through the challenges of life, maintain emunah and betachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, have loyalty and fealty to the Torah Kedosh and to all the mitzvahs, have avas HaTorah, avas Yisroel, avas Hashem, and then you're a Yid. L'chayre, the Mishnah and the Gemara in Sukkah really argues on that whole premise. So, the Mishnah on Daf Memhei Amud Aleph could spend the whole night on this Mishnah. Mitzvahs arova keitzad. Could you imagine that? Lulav has his own din, and the Esrik has dinim, and the Sukkah has dinim. But there's a special Mishnah that teaches us the unique mitzvah of Arava. What do you mean unique mitzvah of Arava? You take the Aravas, two Aravas, with the Hadasim that are higher, with the Lulav and the Esrik that cost so much more money, that represent Tam, Vareach, Midas, and Torah. And never he got the lowly Arava, and it complements Yavi Eluv, Yechababat Eluv, the way we look at the Arava, but there are clouds of Aklapta Yishana. So it says, ancillatory kind of thing. That you have all kinds of Yidden. Man darf sich zubinden a Golnisht mit a Hidda. That's the Pashat Abteich of the Arava. Same way the Ketores has Chelbana, which doesn't have a great flavor. So together with the Tam of the Esrig, the Lulav, and the Hadasim, you have a Arava. Das ist nicht, was der Mishnah sagt. Steht in der Mishnah, sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Mitzvahs Arova Keitzad, Mokim, Hoya Lamata, Yerushalayim, Benikra Moitze. Yoden l'sham malakdim merava yishal arava. I got to hear where you get the lulav from. I got to hear where you get the esrog from. It grows on a tree. But again, the Mishnah tells us they went down and they picked aravis, these lowly willows that had golnish to zich. So we need instructions and where to get it from and what they did with it. Nachtam steht. So they gathered merava yishal arava. Uboin v'zoik v'noison b'tzad ha-mizbeach v'roshein kfufin agab ha-mizbeach. The whole avodah, only with the arava. Not with the lulav, not with the esrog, not with the adasim, only the arava, standing up on the mizbeach, bending over, leaning on the mizbeach. Toku v'riu v'toku. And then there's a whole avodah with the arava. You blow a shofar, tkiya, true tkiya. What's tutzach though? The arava ain't but tam v'reach. There's no midas. There's no Torah. The mama given a yid. And that's why he's a yid. So what are you blowing a shofar, tkiya, true tkiya? Not enough. B'chol yom, makifin as a mizbeach pamachas. And every day, with the arava, not like we do. With the dalet minim we walk around. Hi Shmuel, how are you? With the arava. They walk around only with the arava. They makif the mizbeach. They circle the mizbeach. When they say, Ona Hashem Yishiana, Ona Hashem Atzlichana, Rabbi Yehuda Mani v'Haya Yishiana. All with the arava. The ganze Hallel, the ganze Nanuyim, the ganze Akrafis with arava. You know, every arava looks like the next arava. What's the hitter of arava? Shouldn't be black on top. Shouldn't be dried out. Hadasim hob mahidvo. A lulav hadido. A briske lulav. A klept. Ramrod straight. The Rebbe is like a kneppel. The esrog has a mördige hida. A gartel, mit a gartel, on a gartel. Mesnagdish, a chsidish, all kinds of esrogim. What's for hidvo mit arava? There's only a psul for arava. There's no hiddo, a red stem that grew by the nachal. What's the hiddo? Fine. Oysa yom, Yishan Rabba, Makifet as a mezbeach sheva pomim. 7 times you walk around. Now with the dalet minim, with the arava. Bishor, Tirosen, Ma yoimrim, Yoifel lecha mezbeach, Yoifel lecha mezbeach. Blazoimer, Leah lecha mizbeach, Leah lecha mizbeach. What is doing? What's going on? What's happening that we're makalas the mizbeach dafka with the arava? That we take leave of the mizbeach after 7 days of sukkis dafka with the arava? That the whole avodah with the mizbeach is the arava. So good kasha. The Maral fragt the kasha. The Maral doesn't understand. What are we doing with the arava? Was is mit der Ishanis? Okay, the shul makes money, $7 a bundle, gavaldik, $9, depends where you live. Sheina aravis, and some kids like the really tall aravis, taller than they are, alamailas. But everything, the whole avodah is dafka with the arava. A lulav and esrog represents the Talmud Chochem, represents midas. But the arava has nothing. In Parshas Noach, there's a whole introduction, a prelude, to why Noach was selected to be the continuum of civilization. Eile toldos Noach. Noach is Sadik. Tomimo yobedei reisav. Esor likim is alich Noach. Noach had alichis alikim. Ben Abachai said he understood all the Tifkeit, Meister Malkova, the greatest things, and he still was an Eved Hashem. Sometimes the more you know, the less you believe, the less you serve. Lecher alichas alikim. Tomim haya b'daraisav. So now we know why Noach is selected. Because he was a tzaddik. It's a beferish song. Noach is a big tzaddik. Noach is a big tzaddik. From his keppel to his fislach, he's a great tzaddik. What about Avraham Avinu? Avraham Avinu, there's going to be such a hagdome. All the nisyonis of Avraham Avinu. Savis banav Acharov. Dakedo. Absolutely not. Avraham Avinu, Lech lecha me'artzecha, he's just chosen to be Avraham Avinu. Why no introduction to all that Avraham Avinu accomplished in his life? The Mishnah in Ovis says, Kol ave tluya b'davar, bat l'davar, bat l'ava. Kol ave she'ena tluya b'davar, eina b'teila l'olam. Every ava, every love that's dependent on something, when that something disappears, the hair fades, the face becomes wrinkled, and the love disappears. But an ava she'ena tluya b'davar is eina b'teila l'olam. Love that is not dependent on anything never is bottled, is never negated. Zok de Maral. You know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu selected Avraham Avinu to be a Yid? Because as Agudas, it had nothing to do with anything that he did, with any Mesiras Nefesh, any Nisayin, any education. Pashit Geret, Lech Lecha, Avraham Avinu was selected, the Ben Shemon Tanam Nivchar, and that's us. Not by default, but not dependent on anything. So bedafka ubekalis the mizbeach on sukkis yoifi lecha mizbeach lechon umaydim mishabchem on Hashem Oishiyana dafka with the Arav, with the Yid she'ein batam v'reach, with the Yid as a Yid just because he's a Yid. He was born a Yid. That's the Yisroel of what a Yid is. Can't look down on a Yid. You can't embarrass a Yid. Every Yid has godless. That's why there was no need for an introduction. And that's why Dafka the Arava. Umay Sa'ilam said, of course you were the chosen nation, but you lost it. We can't lose it. Because it's not dependent on anything. There's nothing we can do to sever the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we have to educate our children this way. Fostos is Suzayin Yid. You know, the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the Mishnah Daf Lamed Zayin, Keitzim Ma'aimim. You have a person who's about to commit murder. He's going to testify falsely and sentence a person to death. So, Bais in Sanhedrin wants to caution him. So they tell him, so listen, that the world was created Adam, one man. And the reason for that is to teach us. Kol Mekayim nefeshachas b'Yisroel kilo kiyim olam molei. Kol Ma'aben nefeshachas b'Yisroel kilo ibed olam molei. You save a Jew's life, you saved an entire world. Humankind, mankind. You kill a Yid, you killed the whole world. But that's not enough. So we've just told him, you're about to testify and sentence to death a Yid who the whole world is created for him. It's not going to save this man. But then we tell him according to Rashi, and guess what? You are that world. Once he realizes that Kol Olam Nivra, the ganze world is created for me, how could he stoop down to do such an Avera? It'll stop him in his tracks. If a Yid versteht the Weltanschauung of Yiddishkeit, that the ganze Welt is totally in him, and the whole world was kedai to be created for him, he'll never commit such an atrocity. That's a tremendous yesod. We have to know the power of ourselves, what a Yid is all about. B'shvili nivra olam, the whole world was created for me. from the beginning of time till the end of time, all for this moment. 9:27 and 26 seconds p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yom Shlishi B'Shabbos, early Yom Daled. The world was created for this moment and for me. And I'm learning and I'm steiging, and the ganze Welt is gedei for me. I met two big Talmidei Chachamim. They're on their way out, and all of a sudden they came back. What's the pshat? They claimed they were coming to the shir. I'm not so sure. I think they'd have married and it was time to go home. But they decided, B'shvili never alam, a bissel mehr Torah, a bissel mehr lernen. So human key is super what a Yid is, to understand the koyach of a Yid. What's our job? Our job is to take a fleshly, gashmiistic world and turn it into ruchnius. Rabbi Moshe would say that's the reason why an Eina Yehudi, today you have to be politically correct. We could say the Gimel Vav Yud word, but sometimes people get insulted by that. So we're not going to say the Gimel Vav Yud word, we'll say an Eina Yehudi. You know the song, Amor gegangen in finster Gassen, aber getroffen eine Yehudi. It doesn't work. Aber ich habe Patsch gedacht, you know, we're not going there. What's the pshat? An Eina Yehudi can only bring a korban oilo. Because this whole concept of Kedusha is abstinence. That's the only way he can attain a level of Kedusha. So it's kolol, completely burnt on the Mizbeach. The Galach doesn't get married, the Nunchkol doesn't get married. Celibacy. You don't talk, you become holy. You don't drink wine, you don't eat. You starve yourself. You beat yourself up, you get whipped. Now you're a holy man. A Yid could eat a korban shlomim. A part of the korban is burnt on the Mizbeach, part eaten by the kohen, and you eat your roast beef sandwich, and you have ritzui to Hashem. It's a merit gazach. I don't want to make the people hungry, but lamaisa, that's the koyach of Gashmias, a Yid. I want to tell you a nifladei Gemara. Now, it's a little scary, because you have no shaykhs to Torah, and you beget ha'ma'oretz, you're not going to like this Gemara. Trust me, you're not going to like this Gemara. Shteit hazeh. Psochem mem tes. Tanya. Rabbi Yoimel. Am ha'oretz oso lechol bosor. Kol ha'isek b'teire mutar lechol bosor behema chaya v'oif. V'chol she'eni osek b'teire oso lechol bosor behema chaya v'oif. You got to put a sign up in front of the steakhouse. Entry forbidden unless you're a Talmud Chacham. If you're Amoretz, you're not allowed to eat a steak. You can't make a barbecue. And you can't spend $500 for two people with a bottle of wine. Wine you can have, steak you can't have. You can't have chicken. You can't have fowl, duck. You can't have venison. Ha'ma'oretz steht osur lechol. So what's the pshat? I mean, chutz in the fact, you know, the Welt says that a minig is more powerful than a din. What's the raya? The din is parayim b'choiv mitzvah, but the minig is you don't pay back the loan. So a minig is starker than a din. So the minig would have gain 9 days, a steakhouse, make a siyum. Quick siyum, avada, Fleisch, darf man haben. Sag mal, it's toll nicht essen Fleisch. Also sagt the Gemara. So what's the pshat? So Rabbi Yankiv Zatzal says a meritic pshat. He says like this. He says, if you would ask a cow, do you want to stay and remain a cow the rest of your life? Or would you like to become a human being? So the cow's going to say, avada, I want to be a human being. Human beings rule the roost. They're in charge. I don't want to be a cow to the slaughter. I want to be a human being. Every animal has a sheafa to grow, to be higher. And a human being, a medamba, is the highest level. So you take an animal, and you shech the animal, and you traber the meat, and you soak the meat, and you salt the meat, and you kasher the meat, and you grill the meat, the animal's thrilled. But that's only if it becomes part of the DNA of a Talmud Chacham. But if it becomes part of the DNA of Am Haaretz, he doesn't want it. He's not interested. There's a hetef to the Mabul, a new world order to kill animals and eat the flesh, the meat. But that's only for living at the level where we're supposed to live. One could say, if when you eat the meat you become a bigger behemoth, that you're so fatayvit, the licks in the pastrami sandwich is dribbling in your beard, toss nicht essen. Because that pastrami coming from that cow didn't want to be eaten by you. Doesn't want to be part of the DNA of Am Haaretz. He'd rather stay a cow. But if you're Talmud Chacham, there's going on the zach. It's a very logical thing Rabbi Yankiv is saying. So la halacha today, I don't think the steakhouses have to be so concerned to give a bechina to whoever comes in and orders a 40-ounce steak. I was in Miami Beach, gave a share for the koil, and I spoke for the koil. So someone from the koil, a good friend of mine, he took me out to dinner at a Fleischiger restaurant. So on the menu there were different sizes of meat. So you can't make this stuff up. A fella calls over the waiter and he says, "This 40-ounce steak, is that before it's cooked that it weighs 40 ounces or after it's cooked?" You can't make this up. 40 ounces, 16 ounces a pound. 32 is 2 pounds. That's 2.5 pounds of steak. And he wants to know, is he getting 2.5 pounds pre-cooked or after cooked? Because was all a ton is a filzach 3 ounces. You can't be masik such Sachen. That's the world we live in. Rabbi Dardak used to say, it's not like a meshugana world, it's a beautiful world with crazy people, a beautiful world with meshugayim. Rabbi say, a Yid macht a broche. A Yid absorbs gashmias and turns it into ruchnias. But you got to be willing to be part of that process. Steht kedoshim tiyu ki kodesh ani Hashem Elokeichem. So kedusha l'chora means some esoteric concept, lofty level of sanctity beyond comprehension. In Lita, there was great poverty. Rav Yankiv Zatzal had one shirt, and Erev Shabbos he sat in his tzitzis while his wife washed that shirt. Between the two of them, they had one pair of boots. They never went to a simcha kiddush together. One went, came home, gave the boots to the other, and they went. The muddy streets of Sitavyan. The poverty level in Lita was gefelach. So when a person put out a sefer, you razzle-dazzled everybody with the Hagdomeh. You put your best shtickle, your most slumdish shtickle in the introduction. Because someone is going to take this sefer, and he's going to look at the Hagdomeh, and if he's excited, he'll buy it. If not, he won't. One of the most slumdish svarim written was the Shara Yosha, by Shimon Shkop, about Zika. The Hagdomah of Shara Yosha has no lumdis. The Hagdomah of Shara Yosha is all about Kedusha. Kedoshim tiyu ki kodesh ani Hashem Elokeichem. And he explains. Kedusha means to be Kadosh like the Rebbeinu Shalom is Kadosh. Your Kedusha is a manifestation of the Rebbeinu Shalom's Kedusha. We said before that the Chesed of a Yid represents the Chesed of Hashem. Chesed LaAvram is a matone. The Kedusha has to represent the Ben Shalom. Mamish Kavyachol on the level of the Ben Shalom. So how do you do that? Mahurachum v'chanun afato. The Ben Shalom is a mative, you have to be mative. If you have talents and resources, use it for mankind. You're an artist, paint. You're a musician, play music. Use your talents. That's Kedusha. And then he says like this. How do you mirror Anochi Hashem Elokecha? Shimon writes that your Anochi, your Yid Is A Yid, should be exactly a mirrored image of the Anochi of Hashem. The Anochi of Hashem is Koil, the entire Bria. So, a simple level of Anochi is take care of yourself. A greater level is a wife and children, and then Einiklach, and extends to your neighbors, your friends, to your community, your kehillah, to your city, to your country, to all of Bria. You have a bocha. A vadi is a big lamdin and a masmid, but he has a mishigas. He wants to be like Rabbi Moshe of Shemesh Shabbos, who wears shtadi ties. If you ever seen Rabbi Moshe at a simcha, he has very shtadi ties. It is bacha. He wants shtadi tie. And every once in a while he buys a nice, fancy tie. Or Faragamo shoes that he gets on sale. $600, you only pay $250. I just saved you $400. Mamish T'chayach, $350. You have a young lady. She's a wonderful girl. She does a lot of chesed. She's sneers, but she likes jewelry. Nocha bracelet, nocha brooch. They get married. And the fellow's in Kailo, and he wins the lotto. Wins $10,000. So he goes out and he spends money on his wife. And he buys her a nocha shetel, but nocha an outfit. You say to him, Mechel, what's going on? You always took care of yourself. You should have bought yourself a couple of Armani suits or kapotas if he's a rov, a frock. I am taking care of myself. My wife is myself. His anochius now is extended to his wife. The wife, she gets a bonus. She buys her husband a mesifta shas, a few $1,000s. Why didn't you buy yourself jewelry? He is my jewelry. I adorn myself with his learning. He is me. And then it extends to the children. And matching outfits for the kids and for the Einiklach. What's pshat? You always took care of yourself. I am. My children are me. My friends are me. My kehillah is me. That's the anochias that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. That's Kedoshim Tiyu K'Kodesh Enei Hashem Elokeichem. That you take your Yid as a Yid and you extend it to encompass all of Bria. And this is the real pshat in Hillel. Hillel says, "Emeina nili mili, uchshani la'atzmi mo'ani." If I don't take care of myself, numero uno, who will? And if I'm for myself, what am I? It's doch astira minei ubei. Mimanavshach, take care of yourself or take care of others. Emeina nili mili. If I don't take care of myself, who'll take care of me? And then right away, uchshani la'atzmi, when I do take care of myself, mo'ani. It doesn't say pshat. Emeina nili mili means step up to the plate and do what you have to do. Take responsibility. Shoulder the burden. Take care of yourself. But chshani la'atzmi, if the ani of eina nili mili is only about me, mo'ani, I'm nothing. Chshani la'atzmi has to be benegei you. Chshani la'atzmi has to be other yidden. We have to feel the pain of other yidden. Shmuel Chalkav Zatzal said, to feel someone else's pain is to be a mensch. To celebrate his simcha is to be a malach. I have people in our kehillah that are waiting for shidduchim for their children. And then when they dance at a chasta, bayen simcha, those kamenin that they're marrying off all their children. That's a malach. That's my ani, encompasses my friend. Ein anili mili, so we're taking now the anochias to the next level. Where the anochias takes responsibility for all of Klal Yisroel. Rav Bold is noch da. Rav Bold is noch da. Okay. Rav Bold gebet mir soll sagen a Pomaisis. So, Yois, Stel Shiva, der folgende Shiva. I learned in the Koil and tells the yeshiva, I was there to be a chavrusa of man, I go in, Reb Chaim Stein's that's our first Seder for many years. When I came Rav in Minneapolis for 19 years, became very close to Reb Chaim Dave Keller's that's all, Reb Chaim Levine's that's all, Reb Chaim Schmelz's that's all, tells Chicago. So Moshe Schmelz Shlita, or Shivin, tells Chicago, just told me a few minutes ago, Murdik a Maise, with Rav Chaim Levine and Rav Rabbi Moshe Tuvia Lieff. Rav Gifter was a guest by Rav Chaim Levine. Very often he would stay by Rav Chaim Levine. He'd come to Chicago, give Shurim in the yeshiva. It's called Sniff. It was a branch of Telz. Matal Katz, that's always Miyas at the yeshiva, sent Reb Chaim Schmelz and Reb Chaim Levine, Zachem Tzadikim Levracha, later joined Reb Chaim Dev Keller's, that's all. Miyas, the fortress of Torah, Pecha. Just to let you know what happened when they got to Chicago. So you thought, there was a red carpet, open arms. Do you know the history of Scranton Yeshiva? Anybody know the history? There was a machloikis between Twin Cities, Wilkes-Barre, and Scranton, who would have the yeshiva. And legend has it that Scranton lost. Verstehst? Because nobody wanted the yeshiva. Lamaisa Scranton won, because it's near Envy Yisroel. But at the time, both were fighting with each other. You take the yeshiva. No, you take the yeshiva. Tells yeshiva came with a huge station wagon. All the Bochum with this huge station wagon. And they come up to the shul that the Shivra Motel had arranged they would learn in. And guess what? The Shamas locked the door. They won't let them in. We don't need a yeshiva over here. They were locked out. That was their Bruchim Haboyim to Chicago. So Rav Gifter was by Rav Chaim Levine, Shlita, my Rabbi. And he tells him, Chaim, I'd like to learn outside. The weather is very pleasant. Tel Shiva has a beautiful campus. So Rav Chaim arranged a stender in the back of his house, under an apple tree. Gift was sitting by the Gemara and he was learning. Rav Chaim said that was the back of the house. But he looked through the front window. He saw his neighbor washing his convertible. A very, very expensive convertible. And sitting on the convertible was his girlfriend. So in the back was Rav Gifter learning, and the front was the convertible. So Rav Chaim said, Avada. He said the front was Elam Haza, and the back was Elam Haba. He said, no. The front was Elam Haza, but the back was also Elam Haza. You saw the way Ramotcha Gifter learned, it was Mamish Elam Haza, it was so geschmack, mit Azab Bren. Gerem David Barkin Zatzal came to Yeshiva from Chicago as a young boy, and he sat there transfixed for nearly 4 hours watching Rav Gifter's second Seder, learning on the Mizrach Vant, not taking his eyes off the Gemara, not looking at the clock once. And he said, I want to be like that. To see my Rebbe Shmuel Birnbaum Zatzal. I tell the Olam, the Mir Yeshiva, the Seder Yom was like this. 7:30 in the morning was davening. Nachtem, there was a little breakfast, and you went, Mr. Brewer Seder, I learned the younger Chavrusa, Jay Teppa, and then you started first Seder. It was shared by Shmuel Birnbaum, and Musa, and Mincha, and now it's 2:30. Okay, so you're going from 9 a.m. to 2:30. That's like first Seder. 3:30 was second Seder till 8 o'clock. 4.5 hours second Seder. Then you had Ma'ariv. 9 to 11 was night Seder. Over 100 fellas in my day would learn from 11 to 1. I mean, basically, if you didn't like to learn, the mirror was not the place for you. I don't care how many comics you stuck on the Gemara, you're not going to be able to stay there more than an hour. So what got us going? Shmuel Birnbaum. You saw the Simchas HaChaim he had for the Blat Gemara, the Geschmack and Lernen. It was infectious. Mamish, das ist gewinn Olam Hazeh. Shmuel like sagen, I don't feel bad for the Gevirim. They support Torah. They're going to have Olam Haba. But Olam Hazeh haben sie nicht. Rabbi say, there's a presidential candidate that says, let's make America great again. Let's make America safe again. Let's make Torah geschmack again. All of the issues in the world will fall away by the wayside. I once had to speak about the Nephrus internet. I spoke to Goyam David Shustel Hashiv in Lakewood. He said, Moshe Tuvia, it's not a competition. If you have a geschmack and learn and you learn a taste, it's not a competition. With all the internet, avada, you have to have filters and mices and be careful. But then it says geschmack alone, darf machen das geschmack. That was Rav Gifta learning in the back of the house under the apple tree. It was mamish pure Olam Hazeh. Stoyid, sein Name is Rabbi Yoel Roth. He spoke to a Menayel. And his Menayel tells him there are two kids that are mamish asina legdula. Two bachrim that are mitzuyonim. Mamish, they're mitzuyonim in the yeshiva, it's not shaykh. So he meets the mother. And he says to the mother, how did you raise two mitzuyonim in learning? And she said, I had no choice. I had no choice? It's Williamsburg. You have a lot of choices. She said, I don't know if the Manal knows, but I'm a Giyaris. And these kids, I'm terrified. At the age of 13, they're going to come to Bezin. They're going to ask them, do you want to be a Yid? Do you want to be a guy? Do you want to maintain your Geras? You have an option. You get out of it. And I'm terrified of that moment. I guarantee that they have a geschmack in Yiddishkeit. I don't lose my temper. I don't get angry. Every decision I make is based on that day when they turn 13 and come before Bezdin and say, we want to be Yidden. It's Merida Gemaisa. She raised two Gedolim. Rabbi Sai, don't you think that our children and grandchildren are going to be exposed to a society that's going to tell them, do you want to be a Yid? Is Shabbos so important to you? Is learning so important to you? Is Kashrus so important to you? Von alle Seiten. Every decision a father, a mother, a Bubby, a Zaidi, a Rebbe, a Rav makes concerning children has to be, we have a gewaltige Rebbe over here, that this child should always choose Yiddishkeit, always choose Torah, always have a geschmack. And that's only when you have a geschmack. So the Chamosh Zatzal, so many Yidden fell by the wayside because the Shveltz is eine Yid. It's hard to be a Jew in a life of hardship. But if it's geschmack to be a Yid, you know, there's an idiom that people say, I heard it once from a cousin of mine, Rani Kagan, but many people say it, that every Yom Tov have something in common. They tried to kill us. Hashem saved us. Let's eat. Yeah, the Yom Tov. Oh, but there's an emistikite to that. There's a reason why we eat delicious Sudas on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. Because the children have to learn that Yiddishkeit is Geschmack. It's Geschmack in the Blatt Gemara and it's Geschmack in the Shrum Bath Kegel. It's Geschmack. Yiddishkeit is Geschmack. Loi Lechinam is the Einig Shabbos and Einig Yom Tov and a mitzvah. Because we have to train our children. Yiddishkeit is not a burden, it's a Geschmack. This we got to run to. That's what it means to be a Yid. To pass on to the next door. When they're going to be asked, does this make sense to you? Is this worthwhile for you? A resounding yes. Ist doch, the Pasuk sagt, Bilam HaRasha says, Kilavi, Klal Yisroel is compared to Lavi like an Ari. Vazok Rashi, look at Rashi, Na'ayin Parsha. They wake up in the morning and they put on their talis and tefillin and they grab mitzvahs. Chatoy ve'achoil. That's a Yid. A Yid wakes up in the morning, another opportunity to learn, to live. Moidani lefanecha. You have to train your children. The morning is an incredible time. It's a transition period from 1/60th of Misa. Arayin in Temple auction. To be able to really experience life as it was meant to be experienced. That's the Taina, according to the Pan of Zharov. The Malach has on Yeshua. The pasuk you should be pushing. V'atekisvu lachem es hashira hazois. Even when at war, Torah has to be a shira. If it's a shira, you're not afraid and you're not responsible. You're not scared. It's a shira. So Maisa in Minneapolis, Minnesota, many years ago, was someone I know. He's an Erlich Yid. He dresses like an Erlich Yid. And his wife had a procedure in the hospital, checked into the hospital at night. And the nurse says, did you get the instructions to get this kind of shampoo and do what you have to do with your hair and your skin to prep? I didn't know. We're going to have to reschedule you. Can I get that shampoo? There's a pharmacy in the hospital itself, but it closes in about 5 minutes. If you can get the shampoo and you can apply it, you can have the surgery early in the morning. If not, you have to reschedule. Her husband runs down to the pharmacy. They're already closed. And the computers are shut down. And the gate is pulled down. And he says, please, please, I need this shampoo. And I'll be here 9 o'clock in the morning when you open to pay you. They say, the guy says, I don't know if you will be, you won't be. You seem that you're very exasperated. Take the shampoo. The next morning, this Rebbe shows up at the pharmacy exactly at 9 o'clock with the money to pay. And they say, can we help you? I'm here to pay for the shampoo. They look at each other, and one says to the other, we lost the bet. They made a bet. If this guy who claims he's coming back to pay will ever pay. Then another guy, the pharmacist, comes out from the back, takes a look at this Yid, and he says, no fair. I didn't know he was a religious Jew. If I would have known he was a religious Jew, of course I never would have made the bet. I thought it was Echad Menashuk. I didn't realize it's a Yid. A Jew keeps his word. Unfair. Wasn't a fair bet. And I'll tell you, the last story just happened by Home Depot in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There's a Rebbitzin, a young Rebbitzin, and she went with her kids to Home Depot and had a huge order. And they filled the order, but there was no way she and the kids should schlep all this lumber and boards, whatever they were buying from Home Depot, to the car. So they asked for help. And this is now my beloved Minneapolis. And there are a lot of Muslims there in their garb. And a Muslim fellow, dressed like a Muslim, comes to help them, polite man. 1 trip, 2 trips, 3 trips, 4 trips, 5 trips. He's schlepping and schlepping and schlepping and sweating. It could be hot in Minnesota too. And finally, after he brings everything into the van and secures everything, this young Rebbitzin, your niece, goes ahead and turns to them and says, please, I'd like to give you something for your effort. He looks at her. So she figured he's going to say, Jewish money? I don't take Jewish money. I'm a Muslim. Your money is not money. That's not what he said. He said, lady, I've been observing you and your family since you walked into the store, up and down Home Depot. I saw how courteous your children are, how well behaved, how nicely dressed they were. I will not take a penny from you. It was an honor to be able to serve you. All we have to do is do what we do. It doesn't take a lot. I share this story with you, and it's not about me. It's more about the potential. Just to make sure that you know it's true, it's a Beferish Pesach Kron story. It's in his book. So how do I know it's a true story? Because with Pesach Kron, he always validates the story to make sure it's true. It happens to be that it was with me, but Lamaisa, it's a Pesach Kron story. Nochamo, Minneapolis, flying from Minneapolis, and I'm on the plane. I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. I'm flying Delta, comfort class. I got an aisle seat. And all of a sudden, two ladies come on the plane. One was an Israeli, one was an American. They were friends. One hadn't been back to Eretz Yisrael for 20 years. And I let them in the row, and they sat down, and they looked at me as if like the look the chicken has when you say before you swing him around. I looked like the type of fellow who was going to take out a huge plastic bag and zip myself up in the bag, not to have anything to do with them. So I told them in Hebrew and in English, I'm sitting in the excuse me seat. So what? Excuse me seat. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's a responsibility. It's very comfortable. But because I'm in the excuse me seat, if you ever have to get up, even if I'm sleeping, I'll get up and let you out to take care of what you have to take care of. And the Israeli, she kept to my word, got up 5 times during the trip to go out. Fine. We land, I wish them a nice stay in Al-Tzin Al-Kedosha, and I go to rent a car by budget, with many words that the Americans have stolen from the Israelis, like tank, stop, objectivity, subjectivity, schizophrenia. These are really Israeli words that we borrowed from them. There's another car rental place called Budget. So I'm renting a car from Budget. I'm sitting with my daughter Zangesund and her kids. And all of a sudden, a lady starts screaming behind me, Zarav! Dibarti ototo! Im kol harabanim, kol hacharadim, kamo en bayot baaretz. That's the rabbi I was talking about. If all the religious Jews were like him, there wouldn't be any trouble here. Turn around, it's Yana lady, the one who excused herself 5 times. She's standing next to a handsome tzanchen, a paratrooper, her son, and she's screaming how I'm the rabbi. We're all that rabbi. We're all those Yidden. Khalil, it's easy to make a Chil Hashem, but it's very easy to make a Kiddush Hashem. Let's be proud. A Yid is a Yid. La'olmei elomim in this world and the next. Let's enjoy our Olam Hazav, Torah and mitzvahs. We'll be zeicha to Yeshuas and Refuas and the Chomes. Protect us, Bartzenu HaKadosh, here and forever. We're zeicha to the greatest simcha, Bevias HaGirl, Meir V'Yameinu. Amen.
Shem Yirgin Shir Termas is Boston like to give a big Yashikach. Rabbi Lieff for tonight's drasha. Bais, one of the ways to help Yidden be Yidden is to sponsor a share by Yirgin Shir Torah and help with our Botzes Torah, the Rabbim, that goes worldwide. Call Yirgin Shir Torah 718-851-8651. Email ist@yeshivanet.com for this great schus of our Botzes Torah, the Rabbim. Yashikach to everyone for coming. Chananya ben Akashem. Rotzak at his Baruch Hu Lezakes as Yisroel Figure Hibbonim Torah Mitzvah Shenem Al Lenoich Hofes Amal Tzidkoi Yagdil Torah V'Yadeh.